Have you ever heard the one about dumping pop rocks into a soda can and then you drink it?
The one.
Or wait, no, you don't do it like that. That's the wrong way. I misspoke. Hang on, let me take it again. It's Have you heard the one where you put pop rocks in your mouth and then you drink a bunch of soda and then it makes your insides explode?
The one what?
The urban legend.
Ah, see, there we are. We got there.
Yeah. Hey Eric, it's been
Hi.
a little bit of time since we last chat. We took a little pause. We needed to gather our thoughts and wisdom and power through. Well, not for me, it wasn't powering through, but revisit some movies and this is episode 12 of the Nightmare Hour podcast.
Hmm.
And today we're going to be talking about a movie that I really like, 1998's Urban Legend.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. I think we'll have a discussion here. I'm not sure I'm with you completely. It's interesting. It's worth talking about. But
All
I'm
right.
also like this last week we missed has just been, I'm sure everyone listening understands, but like the pandemic's just like this real like roller coaster. Like some days you're like, I can do this. This is fine. I stay home a lot anyway. The last couple of weeks have just been like insane, like that loop de loops, but they're all going down, and you're just waiting for the roller coaster to go back up.
Or you're
Like
waiting for it to
if you're
fly
watching,
off. It's
yeah. So
fly
like if
off
you're
into
seeing on
oblivion.
YouTube, this is my little headband. Like I'm close to giving up. So I'm afraid. I'm hurt. So I'm struggling, everyone.
So we took a mental health week, and we're back.
Yeah,
That's
here
what
we
he's
are.
saying. That was the long answer to we needed a mental health day. A lot's been going on, but we've still been watching movies and talking about. We've been talking about doing this podcast, but it's just
Yeah.
we needed to get back on track in our own lives. And
Yeah,
while
and
it's not
life.
really on
Yeah.
track, I have tried to kill
No.
myself with all these urban legends. I did pop rocks and
What?
soda. That didn't work. I did the
You had so much energy though. Like you
yeah, where
just got.
I tried to hang myself in a tree and put my feet on the top of a car and waited for it to drive off. Joke was on me. The car was broke down. None of these urban legends worked. But let's dive into this. So this was your first ever watch, right?
I don't think it is actually. Now that I watched
Oh,
it, I think I
okay.
saw this at the theater because a lot of stuff popped like that. Those like weird childhood memories you have. Like I'm like, oh yeah, like yeah. So I'm pretty sure I've seen this. I think I might have been thinking of the other movie by this director called Valentine. I don't think I've seen that, which is
Oh.
like kind of a. Is it similar? It's just like a holiday-based Valentine killer thing. Do you know?
Yeah, I think it's better than that. I think it's pretty good, actually. This is also pretty
It's
good.
it. I had to
This
look it up.
is
I think
on the higher end, I would say, of post Scream teen slasher
yeah,
formula.
that's what I had to. That's what I was gonna say. Is I had to look up whether this was after or at the same time or right around Scream because it felt like Scream was a huge influence on this. Like they're trying to do that
Mm,
reverential, like self, like reflective horror, like that teen horror. Like there's a lot of references to like who the actors are in this movie. Like there's jokes about stuff that they've starred in. Like Joshua Jackson's in this, and when he turns on his car, that Dawson Creek theme's playing, and all like stuff like that. Seems like
right.
very meta that way. There's a lot of those jokes in this show, so it's interesting to me because Scream's kind of a reflection of like horror movies and the '90s and all that, and this is kind of at the next like weird. I don't know, prism, is that the right word? Like they're looking at Scream through a lens that Scream was looking through everything else through a lens. So you get like this weird, surreal '90s teen horror movie. Does that make sense?
Well, the premise. Let's just set up what the movie is. Assuming that everyone's seen it, but this movie was released in '98, so it probably was greenlit. I'm guessing right after Scream in '96, when
Mm-hmm.
everybody's like, let's just do it. Well, I think did Neil Mortz, he produced this movie, which he also did. I believe he did. I Know What You Did Last Summer. So he was already on that train immediately. So trying to make a quick buck. The premise is college students suspecting a single college student suspects a series of bizarre deaths are connected to certain urban legends on her college campus. It's actually kind of it's a little bit Candyman like with with an ensemble cast.
I guess
in college.
it's like the like glossiest, whitest version of that. Like, there's no real like
for sure.
Yeah,
There's nothing
no
deeper than but just like the idea of like in Candyman, which was a big success. It's these people are blaming all these real life murders on urban legend, and this is taking kind of print. Yeah, it's taking that same principle and making it into a more of a true slasher movie where there's no nothing more to it. But this movie's got an all-star cast by today's standards, starring a young Jared Leto, Alicia Witt, Rebecca Gayheart, Tara Reid, and actually the main woman,
that's Alicia Witt, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is. Oh, and I forgot. How could I forget? Michael Rosenbaum, Joshua Jackson, Loretta Devine.
Don't forget like
Robert
the small role, and Chucky
Daniel
himself,
Harris.
and Brad Dourif too. Chucky himself is at the beginning. Like they've got a lot. That's what I mean. There's a lot of like horror referential stuff in this. I think by Scream's example, I think they're kind of poking back at horror while still being horror.
Right.
Like they're making references to things we all recognize from horror, for sure.
Which I think is, I think that's, because Scream was, as you said, the meta horror film. Like this takes that not necessarily to another level, but definitely looks at it through a different lens of what that means, and kind of creates in a very like simplistic, fun way. The horror films we would later see, like Saw, where they're like more of a game. Like this is not necessarily a game, but it's taking the ideas of these child's stories, almost of grim fairy tales, and spinning them into modern day society. Are you? Well, did you grow up as a fan of? Did you guys chat urban legends as a kid?
I don't really think so. I remember I was a nerd that went to the library a lot, so I remember like checking out books like on urban legends and the research and like the scary story ones. Like it'd be like scary stories to tell in the dark, and like my urban legend book. Like I'd look at these like creepy stories that happened to someone, like those true story books. So I read a lot of those, but I don't remember trying to scare like any of my friends, or like, did you hear about your like Davey's cousin's sister who did, I never did any of that. Did you ever experience that where they were saying it's true?
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Like, I don't think any of these necessarily. Like
I do remember. I take that back. Yeah. In like 6th grade, there was like a big, like the clown thing was huge when I was in 6th grade. Like clown in a car was picking up people everywhere. And there was like, every kid was scared of cars with clowns in them, but I never saw a clown car ever.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember some of the ones that were popular when I was a kid. I mean, I guess like the big one was like around like holidays, like when you went trick or treating, it was check your candy, or there's gonna be razor blades in your candy and stuff like that. Yeah. And those never really happened. Of course, I think all urban legends are though based on some form of reality, right? Like it did happen, or a version to somebody, right?
I don't know. Maybe it might be like a telephone game thing where it gets exaggerated. And
I mean, what's crazy is even to this day, the one that probably the one that sticks with me the most is the flashlights, like someone driving and I have no lights on. That one, whenever I see somebody driving, I'm like, fuck, I can't flash my lights because I'm so scared they're going to turn around and kill me. That one, I think is the one that still affects me today.
That one just seems like the meanest too. Like you're going to go after someone who's trying to help you. Like it's like, no, like Saw had this like morality to it. Like they're trying to teach lessons. This is just like, oh, that person was polite. Let's go kill him.
Yeah. I mean, that's just that was the one that for sure I think ruined my life the most. But they were always fun to talk to. They were like campfire stories, but because it was always a friend of a friend or my cousin or whatever it was, because that's the perspective they were always put into place as. They felt more real than just like scary stories to tell in the dark, which of course I loved.
I never saw that movie, by the way, just as an aside. Is it good? Should I do it?
I liked it.
Okay.
You should watch it with your kid. I think it's a very well done scary movie, and yeah, I think they did a good job with it. I had a blast
Okay.
with it.
Good to
But
know.
this movie, Urban Legend, is. Hang on 1 second. I have the wrong thing here. Urban Legend is 5.6 out of 10 on IMDb, 21% Rotten Tomatoes, and 35% Metacritic. It is released September 25th, 1998, and it made $72.5 million at the box office. Let's talk about it. So you don't remember watching it, so you went in as if you were going to. Yeah, this was a new one. So what was your thoughts on the return of this?
I was just like, it was. I don't know. Like you were talking, I think you actually talked up the sequel as being more fun, which I haven't gotten to yet. The final cut. So I kind of went into this one just kind of think that we were going to watch this to set up Final Cut, which we never got around to. So I didn't have
I
a lot
watched
of
it. I
expectations.
absolutely watched it. You never got around to it. Well, that's kind of what spurred this, is that I had bought the collector's edition of Urban Legend. And then Shudder dropped Urban Legend Final Cut, which I'd never seen. We're not even going to talk about the third one, Bloody Mary, but the first two, I would say, have their merits. While they're not like anywhere as good as Scream or any of the Scream sequels, they're certainly as good, if not better, than I Know What You Did Last Summer or Valentine. I revisit, but it's certainly better than a lot of the films that were coming out in that time frame.
Yeah, I remember. Like, I will say that. Like, I haven't revisited these since, because in like 1998, I would have been like, I don't know, 20, 21, something like that. So it's been a long time. But I remember the 90s, that teen phenomena, like those movies just being very glossy and empty and just pretty, like the Dawson's Creek of horror, just like pretty people with like a killer coming after them. It was very boring stuff. And I will give that this is closer to Scream than like what you said. Like, I remember, like, I Know What You Did Last Summer and stuff like that, because it does use like that motif of urban legends and that idea of the silliness we all like, the mass hysteria that we can all like fall into. Like, it explores that, like what we can all be scared of. And yeah, like the Orson Welles War of the World stuff, where everyone can kind of just lose their minds for a little while over something that has no validity to it. And so I do think like this has more in common with Scream than those other like 90s horror movies. Like, it's a little more clever and is trying to do something besides just have pretty people in tight clothes run around and be murdered.
Right. Yeah, I think that this is a little bit more, has an original voice. Like, while it's not as sharp as Kevin Williamson's voice, I think it's certainly much more interesting and developed of an idea.
And I can see like this being hindered by that expectation of like PG-13 90s movies back then. Like, it feels like a little restrained and, for lack of a better term, or like a little neutered. This is R. Is it? It didn't feel like an R. That's a light R.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, even like you remove the gutting scene in Scream, not much else really feels. There's some language.
And I'm not even talking. Yeah, and I'm not even talking about like blood and gore or anything. It just seems very like no real, like, well, a little more than like the other ones, but there's like all the threats, all the violence and everything just feels very like shallow and no real fear or threat to it. It's just kind of like, oh, there's this person with the hoodie again. And there's like not like, it felt like with the way it was written with the other stuff, that it would be a little more biting and scary than that. So I could see like the studio being like, back it up. Like, we need a little more like I Know What You Did Last Summer kind of movie.
A little more fun.
Yeah.
Well,
and they cast the lady that was doing the Noxzema commercials or whatever in it too. So like the Rebecca Gayheart, which they make another joke about that in it.
And she's in Scream too.
Scream 2, not Scream as well.
Yeah. No, yeah. So this movie opens with a woman pulling up to a gas station. It's a rainy night. The gas station attendant, played by Brad Dourif, he's got a hard stutter, and she's just trying to get gas, if I remember right.
And he's got like the traditionally creepy look to him. Like, he's just like a dirty, stuttery. Like, he just looks like he looks like an extra from Wes Craven's Hills Have Eyes, basically.
I was thinking he's very Wrong Turn-esque of a character, and of course, this movie does like this is such a movie like opening scene in the sense that it's mostly following her, but then she drives off, and instead of like staying with her, we stay with the attendant who gets the last line of there's something in your back seat, or just yells something like that, and then we cut to her just driving and playing Turn Around is on the radio, and then she's driving feverishly, crying through the night, and then last second
I really did like that. Like the opening sequence was really good. It
is good. It's fun.
Like, that reminds me of like the stories you tell in the dark, like this nice like campfire scary story put to like a cinematic pacing and stuff, and it worked really well, I thought. So I was into that.
No, I love the beginning. It's great. And then
I never heard that urban legend. Have you?
Yeah, there's somebody in your back seat.
Oh, yeah, I've never heard that one.
It's not necessarily like this. It's always just like, and then there's somebody in your back seat. Yeah, always. I think it's just called like the urban legend is called "Always check your back seat." I believe that's what you file it under. But then we cut to the college that all these kids are going to be taking place in, and they eventually tell the story about what happened about this murder, and her death goes across campus, and Jared Leto's like head of the paper, and he wants to get down to what really happened, and Tara Reid is like just a radio sex therapist.
Yeah. Well, Jordan Leto is basically just doing like if Jordan Catalano got his shit together and went to college, like that's who he's playing.
Right. Yeah. And so basically they're just like fucking Robert Englund is the professor of a class he's teaching about urban legends. Like, sign me up for that fucking class, baby. Let's go. And of course, like he like, this is like how fun I think this movie is. And these moments work really well. Like Joshua Jackson is taken out of the movie too soon, but like Robert Englund's teaching this class, and he's like, does anybody want to do this famous? He holds up the soda and the Pop Rocks, and then Joshua Jackson comes up and he does it, and he goes into rest and like falls on the ground, is like foaming at the mouth and stuff, and then
does the bro joke.
Yeah, it's just like a joke, and no one's buying it, but some of the class is, but that moment I think works really well. Unfortunately, it doesn't last very long in this movie, but I think
how strange is it that they are all enrolled in this class when they're going to have a killer that's obsessed with urban legends coming after them? They're all
that's why he's the red herring, right? I mean, first of all, he's Robert Englund. You're not going to make him the killer. That's just not what you're going to do. But he's the perfect red herring for this movie, just like Brad Dourif is for the opening sequence. But then the rest of the movie kind of plays out as, I mean, that's all the setup we need. There's a killer on the loose that's killing people and setting it up based on urban legends, and they're trying to figure out
reasons that become clear later.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out who it is, and it's a who's who. It doesn't work as well as like Scream does, because it is just like trying to be a murder mystery, and that's all it really is trying to do. And it is a little bit flimsy because there's only one killer, and it's one of those like, well, how could she be, or how can they be there, and there at the same
spoiler.
time?
Just spoil
it. Yeah, but what about Daniel Harris as the super goth roommate?
That was all. I mean, it was awful, but it was also kind of amazing to watch because she's just so irrationally mean all the time.
And goth, like a mean and goth to the max. I actually love it. It's great.
It's just so silly. Like, no one is that. She's like, oh god. And I did love that we got the '90s internet. Like, I need to use the phone. I need to disconnect from the internet.
Yeah, I think from here the movie. Okay, again, like, because I think I watched it far more than you did as a young person. What did you think about how did it play out for you? Were you like rolling your eyes the whole time? Were you like, oh, did it hold your attention still?
Yeah, I wasn't bored, and I didn't get angry at it, but there's like a lot of leaps of like what's that called? Like the suspension of disbelief. There's a lot of moments where you have to really go with that because there's like you said, like how did this person get there and why are they all doing this, and it's just they're all like set up perfectly, which is fine, but
Right.
it made me like as a screenwriter just kind of like it's just like a little too on the nose sometimes. But I wouldn't say that I was bored and I didn't hate it, but I also I guess I felt the undercurrent we're talking about, like where they're kind of exploring urban legends and like horror movies in general, and they kind of like tickle it. Like we kind of we want to talk about this, but we're not gonna. Like, and I got aggravated at that. Like it was like right on the edge of going full on into like a Scream companion, like another classic '90s horror movie. I feel like it was like a rewrite or two or a different production company or something away from being something that is like really interesting.
Well, I actually think it is very well directed for me. I think most of it it does feel a lot of times like you're just on a general studio lot, but I think visually it has much more going on than I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is the other big one at this time frame. I think
I do love that they, I mean, I know you said he goes too soon, but I do love that they killed Joshua Jackson so early just because he's one of the bigger stars during that time. Yeah. So it was clever.
Pacey was really really hot at that time, I think. Or I think Dawson's Creek had just started. I know he was on the up and up. This was after Mighty Ducks 3, of course. He couldn't have been more popular. But what's kind of fascinating is this movie. Okay, so visually, this movie feels the closest to me to a horror sequel. So this was not made by this was made by Sony. This feels like a Dimension film. This feels specifically to me like Halloween H2O. Yeah,
I could buy that. And that's the same complaints I have about H2O. It's like it's almost a Halloween movie and it's almost good, but it's just like it doesn't get there.
Yeah, like it's H2O. I have a lot of criticisms for because there are a lot of people who outright love that movie, and for me, it's like almost good. It's so close, and then it does like the dumbest shit that like sets it back. Like it's an easy movie to watch. Yeah. Right. This movie is an easy movie to watch, and it does like do some dumb things. You're just like, gosh, you were so close, man. If you just didn't veer there, and there, you'd have had it. I think. Yeah.
That's what they both feel like. I think they're kind of have that in common too. Like you can almost feel the studio, like that quote unquote studio influence, like coming in. Like that's not marketable enough. Like pushed it, a little bit away from being as interesting as it should be.
Yeah,
I just feel that in this one and Halloween H2O. Like it just was like we're bringing Jamie Lee Curtis back. Everybody, we got to make this like super marketable and like appeal to the greatest market groups that we can. So we're gonna get pretty. Like what was his name? That guy was huge too. Her son. Oh, he was huge.
Oh, Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't talk too much about that, but it does. This movie did feel a lot like that type of film, and it's kind of surprising that it's not a Dimension film because even the sets feel remarkably similar.
But like the casting of this, you're saying it's great, and it is, but I think it's also to its detriment a little bit. Like they just have so many like pop culture icons in this, and I think it might hurt the movie a little bit. Like it's fun for a minute, but I think it kind of hurts it. Like it takes away some of the the grittiness of it, I guess.
Yeah. It's I should have maybe steered on one path or the other. What I do like about this is the killer is they're like, we don't have time. A mask just doesn't fit here because what urban legend has a specific face. It's usually like ever changing. So the killer they choose is only defined by a winter jacket.
Yeah. It looks like a Peanuts character, basically. Just got like a pulled up, like, and you can't see inside. Like they're always just magically in the shadow just enough where you can't see their face. Which is one of those like suspensions of disbeliefs you got to go with. And I'm pretty sure if you rewatch that movie, I'm pretty sure like body type wise, like who you find out is the killer does not fit whoever's in that coat most of the time. Because I remember that person being a lot bigger than the reveal.
The reveal, is a 5'1",
Neutrogena model or Noxzema commercial.
So here's a list of all the urban legends that are depicted in the film.
Okay, let's lay it on.
Because some of them are referenced. So there's the killer in the back seat.
Mm-hmm.
There is. I don't think this is one. I'm gonna skip that one. Bloody Mary.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
There is the Pop Rocks and the soda. There's the tree with the car below at makeout point.
Mm-hmm.
The headlights off and the gang initiation. There's the aren't you glad you didn't turn on the lights?
I never heard that one either. That one was silly too. Like I really is just like, it always annoys me when horror movies do that. Like you can't tell the difference between like I'm dying moans and sex moans. Like I'm just like, come on.
What kind of sex? She's really goth, Eric. She might really be into some weird stuff that elicits very weird noises. There's at the frat party towards the end of the movie, somebody's like, yeah, this is someone really dying in this song, love roller coaster, and then you hear like the radio person like screaming for their life.
So that part bothered me too. Like that was like the clumsiest, most unnecessary foreshadowing I've ever seen in a script.
Yeah. The dog in the microwave, and then we almost get a kidney heist.
Oh, that was like, that was what they're gonna do, but then
and then they reference the following. They reference replacing birth control pills with baby aspirin. They reference getting pregnant from oral sex. These are all sex things. Oh, because the radio show, right?
Yeah,
the babysitter and the man upstairs calling from inside the house, and then spider eggs inside of anything.
You forgot about penis captivus.
I didn't want to mention that one.
I just wanted to say the phrase. It's fun. It's Latin.
Which has its own Wikipedia, which is interesting. All right.
Yeah. It's a thing. It's a thing that doesn't really happen, but it's an urban legend.
It could happen to you. Happened to a friend of a friend.
Okay.
I promise. So it does a pretty good job of I mean, that's a lot of things for one film. I think this movie, while it doesn't really have anything deeper to say, it is like as a kind of a zeitgeist moment of, at least for me, being whatever 18 at the time or something, and loving slasher films and seeing this one, which especially in the, I'm surprised we didn't get actually the chain emails for the 90s, like, if you don't pass this to 10 people, we're going to kill you and your dog by blowing it up in the microwave. Like, that was such a big, like, moment in all of our lives, I believe, right?
Yeah. I mean, no Nigerian prince either.
No Nigerian princes. Well, that might have been more of a 2000s thing.
I think the Nigerian prince is still giving it a go, too. I think people still get those emails. He's not a quitter. But yeah, I think, like, you're right, but it's just almost there. I don't even know how to explain why it's off, but it just feels like almost like they made it too quickly. Like it needed another couple drafts and another couple of like ruminations, and then they could have made something great. I think it was rushed, maybe. I don't know, just something feels a little vapid about it.
Yeah.
But it's almost there. And then, like, do we want to talk about why the killer's being the killer, just so we understand like how it's almost good? But that's like they come up with like the lamest reason, I think.
Sure. Because
the killer is what's her character name? It's the Rebecca Gayheart, the who we were talking about earlier. What was it, Noxzema girl?
Yeah.
Which they make. She ends up being the killer because the main character, Alicia Witt's character, was in high school and they did the flashlights prank on someone, and someone got so scared that they ran off the road and died in a car accident. And the person who died in that car accident was Rebecca Gayhart's boyfriend. So she's looking for revenge. So she searched out these people and killed them by the very thing that they did to her boyfriend. So like that's what I mean, like that, like suspension of disbelief, like the levels of that of what she would have to do that successfully and like seek them out. And I don't know. And the other lady who is like, she talks. Oh wait, no, she does. Never mind. I take that back. I'll edit that out. But it just seems like such an elaborate ruse, very movie rusey, like overcomplicated and like convoluted, and it just seems silly by the end of it.
You've had enough at the end of it. Well, yeah, just like, is that enough of a reason? Whenever you look at the killer's motives, right, that's the most important thing in the movie to that person. Like, so important that they're not only killing people, but they're killing presumably their best friends, right?
Yeah. Well, I think every horror film
is that enough of a reason, do you think?
I don't know. It feels silly, but I think every horror movie or every thriller movie or murder mystery movie, like when they get that like convoluted in their explanation, you just lose some of the like tension and fear. It just becomes silly, especially in horror. Like we all know, like Michael Myers was scarier before they started introducing like the brother thing, and then like the cult
when there was
thing.
No reason, right?
Yeah, like that's what's scary. Like it would have been much more scary if it was just a really simple reason or no reason at all. But like when she sits at the end and does like that villain monologue with the slideshow, even like she has like a presentation, right. Like it just starts to feel a little silly. Like she prepared a slideshow to present like her reasons. It's like,
well, and it was just left in the room for anybody to find, I guess, right?
Yeah,
like
because it was before PowerPoint. It was like, it was Kodachromes.
Well, presumably anybody could have walked in there and just found it, right?
Yeah,
because she didn't carry. She didn't say like, "Sit down, like show you something."
Well, even to get her to that room, there had to be so many like happenstance things that go right. Like they both had to, like, because Robert Englund's stuffed in the back of the trunk, and there's all these like scenarios that make her think that Jared Leto did it. Like for all that to fall into place, like you can't plan all that. And like how they end up, like she gets to hitchhike with the janitor of all people, and like I don't know, it's just like you can't plan. This is like it just gets so far. Like my suspension.
Well, just her like killing all of her friends. I guess just her killing all of her friends for me is kind of a hard sell because, like, well, first of all, she acknowledges that it was an accident.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's all these people who really didn't have anything to do with said accident, but she's killing just to make it seem like it's not her, I guess, or to make it seem like it's just some random killer.
Or maybe she just respects the format of the film. She just wants to build up. You can't start at the climax.
That's true. That's true. You can't just kill the first. I mean, yeah, you can never just kill the first person, right? Like the person.
Yeah.
Like
but
Sidney
strangely,
Prescott can't be the opening kill.
Yeah. But strangely, that's where I had to correct myself, is because the first lady she does kill was the other person involved in that prank. So she did start at the beginning.
She does. You're right. She did start. She just veered off a little bit. Well, do they just get in the way, you think, of what?
I don't know. They never really explain. I guess maybe like the Joshua Jackson, maybe, but I don't know. Like he was basically sexually assaulting her in the car. It's not like she cared about him when he dies. Like he was being a real bro. Like, he was not being cool.
He wasn't being cool.
So like, it's not like she was killing someone she cared about. She was just like trying to get this dude to leave her alone in a car, and all of a sudden,
right,
he gets murdered. So I don't know what her motives are for a lot of those kills. Like Robert Englund, why Robert Englund? He's just teaching a class, man.
Yeah. Well, I guess when you look, are they all just, because this is a human killer with a specific motive, and it's not related to all these people, it's only a couple people. She's killing a lot of people just for sheer, because she's a psychopath, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Which is what we must. I mean, that's what we have to believe, right? That she's just a psychopath.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely broken, because apparently that boy was the love of her life. Which anyone says they have the love of their life in high school, they're wrong.
It's incorrect.
You just have hormones. You have hormones. Like, even if you end up loving and staying with the same person from high school. They're not the love of your life in high school. You're not mature enough to know that yet. You just got lucky.
You had one good person.
Like you, yeah.
Yeah, but I guess that's something I've never really considered here is her motivation. And while like a singular revenge on these two people is fine, she's killing people like the professor. Oh, he just got in the way, and it's like, I don't know.
Well, she takes
Alicia Witt doesn't seem that hard to kill in this movie.
Yeah. Well, and she's taking the time to frame people. Like she frames Jared Leto to look guilty. She makes it look like it's the professor for a while. Like she's doing all this manipulative framing and stuff. It's just very like she watched a lot of Hitchcock as a child or something. I don't know. Like,
I mean, yeah, she's definitely making it much harder than it should be. Right?
Yeah. But I guess we'd have like a 15-minute movie. So
yeah. Well, that's not a bad thing. I may watch a 15-minute version of this.
It'd probably be great. It'd be like a good short. Like if it was just the opening kill, that's a great short.
Yeah.
That's a great movie. Like I would watch that short and give it accolades. It was a good time.
I do like it is fun to revisit and just be like, oh well, clearly they had just this behemoth playing the killer up until the very end when it's revealed to be the Neutrogena model, Rebecca Gayheart.
Yeah.
Which is just another like kind of I guess clunky move. That's where you need like, oh, we needed a second killer in there, right?
Yeah.
Just to like explain a couple of those unexplainable things, like how was she able to quickly pull Joshua Jackson up over the car with this noose?
Yeah,
quickly, effortlessly.
Because he's not like a huge man, but I mean, he's definitely bigger than she is. Yeah,
for sure.
Like she does use leverage, so she probably took some physics classes or something. Like she uses the pulley system, so she's just not like grabbing him. But still, yeah, it's not very realistic. Nothing about this. It's just like the disbelief has to be suspended so far. I think they could have backed up that stuff. It's so close. That's what I keep saying, and it is.
So is this going to be another good one that a remake could just make this incredible?
I think so. Yeah, if you found the right person to remake this, it could be fun. But they should call it Urban Legends this time. It's Urban Legend. I don't understand why it's singular.
I think it's just like I think it's because if I were going to tell you an urban legend, it would just be a single urban legend. So
is this movie the Urban Legend?
Have you heard the one about? Yeah,
but it has several in it. It's
that's true. Oh no, I get it, but I'm guessing that this is like what they decided upon. Well, for some reason I think the sequel is Urban Legends Final Cut.
Oh, like Aliens. But I guess at the end of this movie, they are telling the story of what happened.
It's Urban Legends Final Cut.
Ooh, they added the S. Maybe they heard me.
And so is the third one.
That is weird. Maybe they're just doing the aliens. Because at the end of this movie, they do talk about all these murders as at another college, as if it's an urban legend. Like, did you hear the one about that college where that girl went crazy and killed all those people or whatever?
Right.
And the Neutrogena girl is there saying, well, actually, you got it all wrong, because that's the twist. She survived.
Yeah. I was going to get to this twist. What do you think about the twist here?
I hated it. I hated it a lot. And she's not in the sequel, is she?
She's not in... Wait, I think she popped up in one of them briefly, very briefly.
Like Final Cut? Is she in there?
I think
like it's not her story still, right?
Correct.
It's different. Okay.
Hey, what about the third one, which is Urban Legends Bloody Mary, which sounds like the worst one that has the worst cover, but let me sell you on it real quick. Can I sell you on it?
Yeah, please do.
It's directed by Mary Lambert.
Mm-hmm. That's a good start. Pet Sematary, right?
Cemetery 1 and 2. Yep. So that's I would say a very good start. And then it's written by Michael Dougherty.
Oh, what?
Who did Trick or Treat and X-Men 2 and Krampus. And Wait, it's also written by who's this guy? Oh, it looks like his writing partner on a lot of those movies. And then I think that's all. That's all the real big things, except for I'm trying to see who these producers are. But I don't really know any of the cast here. They don't really look.
What's the plot?
Kate Mara is the lead.
Oh, wow.
The premise from 2005 is in 1969, three high school. Well, hang on, this is the long one. I'm gonna look it up on like IMDb real quick, which has the quick one. Ooh, Rotten Tomatoes 40% higher than this movie. So,
Ooh.
A homecoming night dare turns into a runway nightmare for a trio of high school friends who unleash an evil spirit in this terrifying entry into the urban legend series from Pet Sematary director. Everyone knows the legend of Bloody Mary, but when three high school friends jokingly recite an ancient incantation for what they believe to be a harmless prank, eventual spirit is unleashed and their fate sealed.
So it's like Evil Dead married Bloody Mary.
What if this movie fucking rocks?
Let's watch it. Let's do it for next one.
Actually,
let's do all of them.
The next one. Yeah. I really enjoyed the second one. It's sillier than this one, but I think that's why it's fun. Like, I think what you were saying is like it doesn't really handle the tone of being silly sometimes and straight the other. The second one goes for a very maybe even more meta approach. But it worked for me. Who knows? Maybe this. I think the Bloody Mary one could at least be interesting, but we'll see. Urban Legend 2 has 9% Rotten Tomatoes. I will tell you, it doesn't have the pedigree of these. Yeah, so the third one is the most well reviewed, significantly so.
Huh. That's a twist. See, we have our own twist.
Yeah, the second one's interestingly directed by a longtime, very famous composer, John Ottman, who did a lot of Bryan Singer's movies. But, I mean, he's done a ton of stuff, but Bryan Singer is like his main collaborator. But he did direct the second movie. Is that the only movie he's done? No. Yeah, it is. It's the only movie he ever did. All right. And
is part 2 more like Scream even? I just read the first line of the plot. A student at a prestigious film school is unsure about what her thesis film is going to be. So is it like meta in that way?
It has little to do with urban legends. I would say this was a standalone script that got moved into this type of movie.
One of those.
Yeah. It's more of just a standalone slasher, but in my opinion, it was a lot more fun. But it didn't really have anything to do with urban legends at all.
Okay. I like it.
You can make an argument that it's Scream 3-esque, which I don't like Scream 3, so it's kind of interesting that I do like this. But I'm fucking intrigued to watch entry number 3 from Mary Lambert and Michael Dougherty.
Yeah, I kind of want just those two. I just want to watch it right now.
I mean, an early work from both them. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Well, what else we got for this? I enjoyed it. We're gonna get into the sequels in later episodes.
Yeah, let's do that. I enjoyed it enough to watch the sequels. So
yeah, there's nothing like it.
I think it's emblematic of a lot of those '90s horror movies that I don't know. You might have fond memories of, but they're just kind of this strange amalgamation of like corporate CW type stuff with horror, like when the 90s tried to make horror pretty. And I think it's kind of that, and it's strange. That's my final thought.
It's not a bad final thought. I mean, I agree. I think it was a fascinating time, I think, for horror movies. I think Scream put us on this path of teenage murder, which is just bringing it back from the 80s, but doing it with a slightly more actual fun meta approach. And this movie could be a tremendous remake. I think they are remaking it, actually. I believe they are. I think it was just announced. I'm going to quickly do this. It is coming announced this year. It's being fast tracked, as the cool kids say today. It is directed by the guy who did What Keeps You Alive, which I thought was a really good movie. Nothing like Urban Legends, I would say. Did you see that movie, What Keeps You Alive?
Not from the title. I might have.
They also did Extraterrestrial, which was okay. Wait, did they do? No way. Oh, they're one of the directors who did Grave Encounters, which I think is a pretty good movie.
I do too. I've been like taunted for that forever.
All right, I'll say it's a real good movie. He also did It Stains the Sands Red, which was a pretty good movie. Do you remember that one? Did you watch that?
I don't remember that. I don't even remember the title. I don't think.
Well, but Grave Encounters rules. We should talk about both of them because I think they're both actually quite good.
I think the second one's pretty bad. Like it goes into that trying to explain too much. Like there's like portals and stuff, and it just gets real bad. But the first one's just so like similar to like the Zach Bacons and all those like ghost hunter shows, and I think it works for what it is. I will say my last thought that I had is like I think this Urban Legend kind of is one of those films that closed out that 90s film phenomenon because it was released in 98 and I just looked and Blair Witch Project was released in 99 and that brought in a whole different kind of horror movie, I think.
Yeah, changed things quite a bit.
So yeah, this is towards the end of that what we think of as those 90s teen horror movies, I think. I think it's one of the bookends. So that's interesting.
I guess it would have been because you're right. Blair Witch changes everything again, and then a couple years later you have Saw, which changes it again, and then sets us in like a very confusing 2000s time frame.
Yeah, we just got Hostels. Yeah,
but we both enjoyed this movie. We're going to tackle the sequels, but what we're most excited for as we get back on track with the Nightmare Hour is September, October. Our episodes for those two months. September, we're going to be get back a little bit into true stories and true crime element as we talk about how are we pitching this? Is this all cults? Is this brainwashing? Is it all the above?
Yeah, I think so. I think we can we don't have to have a specific definition of a cult that like has a name, but that cult phenomenon. I think that would be a good way to pitch it. Like when people gather together with disastrous results. How about that?
I think that's correct. And we'll talk about true stories, some of them that influence movies directly, and then some of them that are just fascinating to us. And then that'll lead us into October as we get into everyone's favorite time of year. And I'm sure we'll be doing a whole bunch of cool shit for that. We don't really know yet, but we'll be talking about probably some of our favorite stuff, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best time of the year in any way you measure. So
anywhere,
October is the best month. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good welcome back. I enjoyed our little chat about this small little slasher film, 1998's Urban Legend. I don't know, did you stream it somewhere?
I rented it, yeah. Actually, okay. I think it was Showtime. I got a Showtime subscription to watch it, yeah. So Showtime.
Wow, lucky. Yeah, lucky. All right. Well, that's it for this episode of the Nightmare Hour podcast. The hour may be over, but the clock keeps ticking. We'll see you next week, the same place, same time. And remember, tell all your friends, ghouls and ghosts. Is that what we're going to say? No, he's shaking his head no. You will not say that out loud. Tell all your friends. And if you want, drop us a line at nightmarehourpod@gmail.com. Here we go.